In today's gospel, we hear the continuation of the calling of the 12 apostles by Jesus. One of the many amazing things about Christianity is where it starts. There are many religions in the world, and most of them express mankind's search for God. But Christianity is all about God's search for mankind. It starts with God, not with us. That's what happens in today's first reading that Richard read. The people of Nineveh, a major city in the Middle East, are living sinful lives. Lives full of pleasures and noise, and maybe even full of prosperity, popularity, and great achievements, but empty of meaning and lasting happiness. Kind of like our world today, isn't it? That's what always happens when people rebel against God's plans and the law He built into human nature. And God's heart is smooth with pity for these people by the end of what Richard read. So He sends a prophet, Jonah, to wake them up, to put them back on the path of God's plan for human happiness. The only plan that will actually work. Through Jonah, God went in search of the Ninevites because He cared so deeply, as I said, about their happiness. And the same thing happens in today's gospel passage. In the passage, St. Mark shows Jesus doing the same what He came on earth to do, calling people into a personal relationship with God. That's really what is the core of Christianity. Notice how He calls the first apostles by name. Think of last week and this week. Peter, Andrew, James, John. He had met all of these men before in His travels. But now He calls them more closely to follow Him. He calls them because He wants to give them more meaning, a purpose, and ultimately happiness. He wants to bring them into His kingdom, just like He wants to bring all of us. This is what the God of Christianity is all about. The one true God. He comes in search of every human heart, calling all of us into everlasting friendship with Him. He wants to love us. Jesus always has something to say to us. Jesus, as we know, is the Word of God. And God is love. And love never tires of speaking with us, even though we're not perfect and we sin, etc., etc. Still speaking, still loves you unconditionally. Motto of this church, right? In a sense, the entire history of the church can be understood as an ongoing conversation between God and His children. People like you and me, who either listen and respond to God's voice or ignore it. Talk to the hand, those faces, and listen. Alfred Bassett, also known as St. Brother Andre of St. Joseph's Oratory in Montreal, Canada, and as Richard will be happy, the Holy Cross Brother is a very good example. He was one of 10 children, born to a working-class family in Quebec, Canada. In the mid-1800s, he was orphaned at 8 years old and went to live with relatives. In spite of his poor health, he had to work from a very young age in order to help pay for his upkeep. At the age of 25, he joined this religious congregation called the Congregation of the Holy Cross. For the next 40 years, he spent his days in work and in prayer, uncomplainingly washing the floors, windows, cleaning the toilets, carrying firewood, serving as a porter and a messenger. Eventually, he found a more or less permanent assignment as the doorkeeper of the college. bookkeeper, he had many contacts with the people coming to the college to visit the students. They were there, the priests, etc. Poor people would come to him. Sick people would come to him. Little by little, people began to notice that when Brother Andre prayed, miracles started to happen. Soon he became known as the Saint of Montreal, or the miracle worker of Montreal. But his most lasting contribution is the magnificent oratory of St. Joseph, the largest church in Canada. And it is the largest church dedicated to St. Joseph in the world. It stands today at the highest point in the city of Montreal, and it receives more than 2 million people every year. But it started out very simple and small. It was a little chapel like this. No bigger than this, actually. And he used to live upstairs from the chapel. Andre always had a strong devotion to St. Joseph, who is the patron of Canada. And as a young man, he had a dream in which he saw a church building in a very unfamiliar setting. The dream was so vivid and insistent that he became convinced that he was called by God to build a chapel to St. Joseph on the top of Mount Royal. So he did. Amidst people saying it's not going to work, even his own superiors were against him. He didn't let that stop him. He was a thickhead, like me. The amount of pilgrims who streamed to the little chapel to implore the intercession of St. Joseph flooded the little building, so he arranged for an expansion. A few years later, he had expanded it again. Today's structure took almost 40 years to build. And as a child, every summer, where did we go? As a family, my father, mother, and I. St. Joseph's for a week. And we go to St. Anne's in Quebec for a week. So do I know that place? Yes. Graham can attest to it, because I gave him a tour of the place when we went. A man, non-educated. Today he probably would have a passive theology class or whatever. Get a CPE. Can't they do that? Yeah. He didn't have the intelligence. He was a man of God. Heard it and went for it with his God. He was humble. But he did the one thing we all need to do. Listen. And he did something. That's so important. God is always calling out to each of us because he loves us. And he wants us to lead more of a fulfilling life, both here on earth and for eternity in heaven. But there's a problem. And the problem is we're not always listening, especially in this world with all the distractions. We fill our lives with so much noise that God's call can be lost. We don't hear it. We let it, so to speak, go to voicemail. We'll get to you later. Text me later when I'm not busy. We have to stop that. One thing we're very uncomfortable with in our society is silence. Because we're such a society on the go. When there's silence, there must be a problem. What's the matter? For those of you who are new to St. Jonathan's and welcome, the type of priests that are here, we are like worker priests. We have jobs other than just the church. I, for example, work at Walt Disney World. And when I'm on the phone with guests, potentially guests that are coming, and there's silence on the phone because I'm doing something on the computer or whatever, they get very uneasy. What's the matter? Is my membership okay? Are my vacation points okay? What's the matter? We're not used to silence. We have to get used to silence again. Give that time for God to talk to us. And I don't care where that silence is for you. Could be in the morning when you first get up, when you go to bed, as you're driving. Don't turn on the radio or whatever. Get some quiet time, quality time, so you're not putting God on voicemail, so to speak. And however you wish to spend that time. Saying a decade of the rosary, or just making up your own prayers, or just talking to God like He's your BFF. Did I say that right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Okay. That's what you need to do. That's what we all need to do today. That's why possibly this world is so screwed up, is because we haven't given enough time for silence. One thing that we do here at St. Dorothy's is after the homily, we let the congregation speak. If they had any thoughts, you don't have to agree with me, about the readings, about anything that I said, feel free.
You look good and great. Is that new?
No, I wanted before. Thank you. You should see me in pink.
We have the words I heard today were planning and listening. I think that this is a good time of year for us to start thinking and planning and listening. And I'm thinking about what's going on in our country these days. The idea of religion in our political life these days is taking prominence. And I think that we heard Jesus call disciples. So if we're His disciples, we need to base our decisions on what we think that the Lord is calling us to. As Father Jim alluded to, we're all welcome here at this church. We have open communion, and we use as an informal motto, love without judgment. So I think things need to be done in love. And I don't hear a lot of love, unfortunately, coming out of the Republican candidates. The other day I was reading a column by Cal Thomas, with whom I usually always disagree, but he wrote a very good column in the Orlando Sentinel. He's the national columnist, conservative columnist. One of the things he said was that in God's plan, Barack Obama is the president at this time. What will be in the future, of course, we don't know. What will God plan for us in the future? I am totally disturbed at the fact when people talk about food stamp presidents, denigrate the poor, talk about repealing DADT, don't ask, don't tell for those who don't recognize the initials, and many other things that are not good. I don't think that are progressive, the abolition of certain regulatory agencies that maybe need to be changed and may be better, but that protect our water and our way of life. So I want to just encourage you as you listen to all the rhetoric that's going on, that in the future that you make a decision based upon your discipleship in Jesus Christ. Now, sometimes I'm criticized because I make a political statement. However, I feel that this is important for me to say, especially if we have a whole group of over 100 evangelists that gathered recently, a couple of weeks ago, and gave their endorsement to Rick Santoro. Now, if our Protestant brethren can be making recommendations and endorsing people, then I think that we as a church also need to come out and say what we believe in. And this is what we believe in. We believe in the progressive gospel. We believe in love without judgment. We believe that all are welcome in Christ Church. We believe in the religious freedom that the Catholic bishops are talking about, enabling people to have a better life and be inclusive rather than exclusive. And that's all I'd like to say at this point in time.
I sort of go along with that line. I was reading something last night about, Jesus called fishermen. Fishermen throw their net in. The net doesn't say tuna only. It doesn't say flounder only. They take what they get. It's a diverse collection of stuff that fishermen get. And I guess he could have chosen some other occupation, but that's what he chose. We are a diverse group. We need to accept that we're a diverse group. And the evangelicals, to go along with what you said, they're not willing to accept a diverse group. They're not willing to be fishermen. I don't know what they are, but they're not willing to fish and take what comes up, what God puts in their net.
Anyone else? You don't get to see this in the Roman Catholic Church. I wish they did years ago in the Senate. It stopped.
Just one other thing. I really want to thank and welcome anybody who is new here today. I was going to note this at the end of Mass, but there's no reason not to do it now. And to say we're really glad to have you and to see you. We're trying to build a church, and of course it takes time, as Father Jim said, and hopefully, I don't know if we want to be a Montreal, but anyway, we certainly want to be signed here in this community of God's love for all people. And there's a lot of people come and they go, so when you have that kind of instability, you won't go too far. But we don't want to grow too big because we like the intimacy. I know that those are becoming like that too, I think. But, we do certainly hope that you will consider coming back to here to St. Dorothy, and that we together can build a community of God here in Central Florida.
It's good they have a choice.
And we welcome especially the young people. We don't see a whole lot of young people, so we're very happy to have them.
Very good. Then let's continue on with our liturgy. And as our profession of faith, we'll be using the Apostles' Creed. I believe in God, Father Almighty, creator of heaven and earth, and in Jesus Christ, his only Son, our Lord, who was conceived by the Holy Spirit, born of the Virgin Mary, suffered under Pontius Pilate, was crucified, died, and was buried. He descended into hell. On the third day he rose again from the dead. He ascended into heaven, and is seated at the right hand of God, the Father Almighty. From there he will come to judge the living and the dead. I believe in the Holy Spirit, the Holy Catholic Church, the communion of the saints, the forgiveness of sins, the resurrection of the body, and life everlasting. Amen. Let us recommend to God our Father the needs and sufferings of this world, and let us say as our response, Lord, renew our hearts.
For the church, that the Lord may help it to keep renewing itself, that it may stay on the road of the gospel and help people to live it as good news. Let us pray to the Lord.
Lord, renew our hearts.
For those who leave their nets to follow Jesus the Lord, that they may so live the gospel as to make it visible and tangible, let us pray to the Lord.
Lord, renew our hearts.
For those who are rejoicing, that they may take time to bring joy to others, let us pray to the Lord.
Lord, renew our hearts.
For those who weep, that they may keep hoping for the time when their tears will be dried, let us pray to the Lord.
Lord, renew our hearts.
For intention should we bring to our Father today?
Well, I'd like to remember the deceased, especially my mother. Today would have been her 95th birthday, and tomorrow is her 7th anniversary of death. And they're going to offer this Mass today for her intentions and for the intentions of all of our loved ones. For this we pray to the Lord.
Lord, renew our hearts.
For those who suffer from addictions of any kind, let us pray to the Lord.
Lord, renew our hearts.
I'd like to remember my brother-in-law, Reiner, and my friend, Linda Curley.
Lord, renew our hearts.
For all the intentions we hold deep within our hearts that are unspoken, we pray.
Lord, renew our hearts.
Keep calling us, Lord, but give us the strength to respond to your call by the power of Jesus Christ, our Lord.
Amen.